enable the power. We stand for integrity, honesty, self-reliance, self-defense, and most importantly, no compromise on our foundational principles. This is America's Voice Now.
Find America's Voice Now on Facebook and at americasvoicenow.org. Here's Michael Evans.
Good morning, America. You're listening to America's Voice Now. My name is Michael Evans. I'm your host. And we'll have a very, very interesting show for you today. We're going to have David Blume on with us this morning. David is the creator and the author of a number of books, the first of which is known as How Alcohol Can Be a Fuel, or Alcohol Can Be a Gas. I strongly encourage you to listen to this interview this morning. Mr. Blume will explain to us how you can convert your automobile, your existing vehicle, into a alcohol-burning vehicle for in the range of $350 to about $700, depending upon the vehicle. Your average six-cylinder is less than $500. It's about $425, $150 or so to get it put in your vehicle. And he will also talk with us in reference to how you can actually manufacture your own alcohol and be completely gasoline-free in your vehicle. It's going to be a very, very interesting interview. He'll join us at about quarter after the hour. Before we get there, I want to discuss a couple of quick issues. I want to do one or two reminders. First and foremost is that on this Saturday, May 18th, at the West Plains Civic Center, there is going to be a rally regarding retired Command Sergeant Major Dan Page. He is ex-retired U.S. Army Special Forces, and I will be there as well. Between the two of us, we'll be talking with you about where we are headed and what's going on in our nation in reference to the battles that are being waged against our military veterans, our communities, the institution of the family, your right to own firearms, the Constitution, and perhaps even more importantly, the coming surveillance monitoring system that is invading every aspect of our lives. If you haven't heard the news yesterday, the AP was monitored. 20 telephones were monitored for months by the Department of Justice. The amount of monitoring and review by the IRS of groups that had the name Patriot or had the words 9/12 or any of those types of issues in their name was unacceptable and is just an example, one symptom of the cancerous corruption that has pervaded our nation. We are in the midst of a battle, folks, and we are in the midst of a war. Make no mistake about it, this is a war. It is an undeclared one. It is one that the prostitutes in the mass media and the propaganda ministries don't want you to know about. But make no mistake about it, we are in a war, and we do live in a police state. If you have any doubt of that, just go out there and look at the surveillance statements that are being made by virtually every administrative agency in the nation. They can read your email, they can read your telephone calls, they can monitor and record everything that you say, everything you do, and there isn't a damn thing you can do about it. Ladies and gentlemen, make no mistake. We are embroiled in a war for the restoration and the salvation of the Republic of the United States of America. Retired Command Sergeant Major Dan Page will be graphically speaking in reference to that. I encourage you to be there. I encourage you to bring a friend. I encourage you to make sure that the person that you bring with you may be one of those people that is sitting on the fence and not quite sure whether or not they understand or whether they're prepared to step into the role of patriotic American and begin to get motivated, educated, informed, and take action against what's happening to our nation. I really, really would like to see you there. It will start at 9:30 a.m., and it will run until mid-afternoon. There is a lunch break, but no food will be provided. You'll bring your own biscuit or you'll go hungry. May 18th, 9:30 to mid-afternoon. Make sure that you're there. Find out who's behind all this, what we're doing about it, what they're doing to us, and how you can participate and get prepared for the coming terror. And this is terror, folks. Okay, Common Core. It's being hammered down our throats. We've got to make sure that we are filling out our witness forms for SB 210. Sierra Bravo 210. This is a federal program that is being instituted in our schools. It is an absolute abomination. It is one of the worst educational programs that has come down the pike. And this is being fostered and forced down the throats of every community in the nation. They expect our schools to be operated the same in Miami as they do in Minnesota, and the same in St. Louis as they do down here in West Plains, and the same over in Seattle. Ladies and gentlemen, they are taking local education out of the schools and shoving a federal program down our throats. It is unacceptable, and we must resist it and fight back. Senate Bill 210 will do exactly that. And so you are requested to please go to mofirst.org and fill out a witness form for the hearings that are being conducted right now in the House and the Senate, in our assembly, our state assembly, to block the implementation of Common Core in the state of Missouri. We don't have much choice in the federal side, but we sure as heck have a lot of opportunity to stop it right here in our state. I want to talk to you about the White River National Blueway designation. This is a terrifying takeover of 18 million acres of land. It is about 20% of Missouri and about 45% or 40% of Arkansas. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're not aware of what this means, this will give them the opportunity to literally institute Agenda 21 through zoning and regulation policies that are handled by bureaucrats in Washington and in other states that have never even set foot in this region, much less know anything about it. This is a conservation project, and I'm here to tell you this is the worst conservation program that you can. It's all about conserving the land and nothing about you. Now, there is going to be a public meeting on the 21st of May, and it's going to be held down in Salem, Arkansas. So you Arkansans, it's time to get up on your hind legs and get over to Salem VFW Hall on Tuesday, May 21st at 6:30 p.m., and you're going to hear from Dave Doherty. He is a former college professor, an author, a historian, the owner of Survive USA Preparedness Store in Calico Rock, and he's the talk show host of Through the Looking Glass at 97.1 Mountain Talk Radio. VFW Hall, Salem, Tuesday evening at 6:30 p.m., and he's going to discuss his research on the White River National Blueway designation. Now, for the record, I am going to have tomorrow morning Michael Kaufman, who is going to join us. Dr. Michael Kaufman is the world's leading consultant on the subject of Agenda 21. And basically, he was the one who accomplished persuading our U.S. Senate to table the UN Convention on Biological Diversity back in the 90s. And he also testified before the UN Assembly. This guy is the rocket scientist of Agenda 21. He knows more about it than all of these politicians together, or he's forgotten more about it than all of these politicians together know. In the late 1990s, Dr. Michael Kaufman teamed up with the top land rights advocates in the U.S., along with being advanced on insights. He's a joy to work with, and I have to tell you, I think you're going to find this a very, very interesting discussion tomorrow. So please make sure that you join me right here to speak with Dr. Michael Kaufman on reference to the Blue Way Initiative and the institution of Agenda 21. They are starting this, they're kickstarting this, folks, here in the Ozarks. This is only the second designation of a Blue Way in the United States of America, and they have chosen perhaps the finest area in the nation to begin to institute the tyranny of complete government control over land, land use, land rights, and water rights. That's what this is about. Make no mistake. This isn't about preserving agricultural land. This isn't about preserving anything other than land which you will no longer have any say over in its use, its occupation, and its ownership. Be here with us tomorrow morning for Dr. Michael Kaufman. And be down in Salem if you're down in that Arkansas area to speak with, or on Tuesday. The 21st, May 21st. That's going to be at the VFW Hall in Salem, Arkansas. We're going to take a quick break. When we return, we're going to be joined by Dr. David Blume. He is the creator and the purveyor of Alcohol Can Be a Gas. As we mentioned, this is going to be a very interesting interview. This allows you to convert your existing vehicle to an ethanol or alcohol fuel system, and you can do it for less than $500. We'll be back in just a moment. Stick with us. You're listening to America's Voice Now.
Hi, it's Hugh Hewitt on the next Hugh Hewitt Show. The next governor of Virginia, Ken Cuccinelli. The current senator from South Dakota, John Thune. I'll also be joined by Bill Kristol, and we'll talk with all of them about immigration reform and what is ahead in the United States Senate, and Marco Rubio. Don't miss any minute of the next Hugh Hewitt Show.
Sundays from 6 till 7, following Money Talk with Bob Brinker, it's the Weekend Journal with Hugh Hewitt on the Ozarks Best News Talk 107.1.
Even with all of this going on, the beach is closer than you think. Pacific Beach Tanning and Fitness is open, and now's the time to take advantage of their construction special. Pacific Beach is offering 20% off all tanning packages, gym memberships, and lotions. There's plenty of parking in the back, so don't let a little street construction keep you from the beach. Pacific Beach Tanning and Fitness, 110 Trish Knight Street in West Plains.
All right, we are returning. Thank you for sticking with us during that commercial break. We are going to be joined by Dr. David Blume. David Blume is the author and the purveyor of Alcohol Can Be a Gas. And this is a website where the entire thing is dedicated to utilizing alcohol as a fuel system and basically replacing gasoline engine or gasoline in your engine. And Dr. Blume, are you with us?
I'm here today, yes.
Well, good morning. Thank you very much for joining with us. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here.
I've been looking over your website, alcoholcanbeagas.com, and the interesting part of this is that not only are you advocating the use of alcohol as a fuel source, but that your commentary here indicates that by replacing alcohol as a fuel system and getting away from fossil fuel oil, we would be able to not only run our cars leaner and cheaper, but also create some 26 million jobs back in the United States and bring those back here to our domestic shores. I'm impressed by that number because that is a significant number of jobs, number one. And more importantly, I love the idea of breaking free of the OPEC nations.
Well, yes. The issue about employment is we don't manufacture things here anymore typically because the corporations have found it much more convenient to hire compliant poverty-stricken people in other nations to do the work. And so we need to bring something back to this country that can only be made here. And alcohol fuel is one of those things because alcohol is made by plants.
Right.
And, for plants to make the sugars and starches that we turn into alcohol, you have to have plants growing in soil, like our soil. And, the sunlight falling on our plants is combined with carbon dioxide in our air and water, and that makes carbohydrates. Carbon dioxide, carbo, and water, hydrate. So we get carbohydrates. And we can ferment those using yeast, the same yeast that make wine or beer. And once we have a beer, but it could be made of stale donuts or old candy or anything with starch or sugar in it,
right,
we can then make it into donut whiskey by distilling that donut wine into donut whiskey, and then you can run your car. And, of course, donut whiskey is, the perfect pairing with potato chips. So,
Welcome to the New World Order, right?
Yeah,
what I find about it is I love the concept of being energy independent because I think that it would dramatically change the nature of life here in the United States for us if we didn't have to be involved in so many extracurricular extra constitutional endeavors overseas. But more importantly, I like the idea of revitalizing our own economy by eliminating our dependency on foreign oil and the hold that they have on us, while simultaneously producing enough jobs to really bring Americans back to the work table, producing and functioning and planning and developing right here at home. I get it that it reverses global warming. To be honest with you, I'm not a real big global warming fan. I think a lot of it is hype and hyperbole. But, I get the fact that we can do a better, we can play a better role in our environment, but I'm really I'm more interested in the energy independence and the revitalization of our economy. It's kind of like a triage thing, right? Let's stop the bleeding first and foremost and worry about Band-Aids and scars and scrapes later. And so I love the concept of that, but what I really like is the fact that it actually performs better than gasoline. It's 98% pollution free, and it's the octane count on it is through the roof. You can't buy gasoline with octane this high. And what I really like, I think, the thing that I found the most impressive about your website was the fact that you actually sell a fuel conversion kit.
Well, that's one of the impressive things, of course, and I'm happy to talk about cars and stuff. But you said something that I want to amplify, which was, bringing jobs back, to the table. And the table I want to bring the jobs back for is the bargaining table. Right now, corporations have us under their thumb, and, they make us feel like we should be really thankful that they hire us at all. Otherwise, they'd throw us out on the street to starve. So,
right.
Heaven forbid that workers should talk to each other and decide that maybe we deserve more than our measly share of what they want to give us. And so, the idea that people could organize, themselves and have a say, in their working conditions is a function of unemployment. And if alcohol fuel produces the 26 million jobs that the EPA and the USDA studied back in the 1980s, well, that would reverse all the jobs that the last administrations, starting with Bush the first, would have destroyed in our country. We'd be back to full employment, and full employment means, you get a chance as a worker to be part of governing yourself again. And oh my God, that does sound like democracy, doesn't it?
Well, my concern with this is that the last few, administrations, irrespective of what side of the political fence they are, because they've both betrayed us, by the way.
Oh, I've seen everything since Bush the first.
They're raping our nation of its wealth while they're simultaneously getting us to pay for our own enslavement. And my principled concept here is that by literally spending a few $100s, you can, completely separate yourself from the cycle of being a willing participant in our own demise. And you've got a page up here about where you can purchase these conversion kits, which you've created and designed, everything from a 2-cylinder all the way up to a 12-cylinder, and diesel units as well. I mean, for $400, I looked at it from my truck this morning for $417. Plus whatever it would cost me to have a mechanic install it, because that's not my speed.
Yeah, it's like an hour and a half's worth of work for you said a 6-cylinder you got?
Yeah.
Yeah, so a 6-cylinder, it takes about 1 to 2 hours. The way the kit works is that we intercept, well, let's back up and say, what is the difference between alcohol and gas, and
Sure.
Why do you need a conversion kit? As you were pointing out, alcohol has a much higher octane than gasoline. It's 108, depending on how you measure it. So it's as good as the best racing fuel you can buy. And as you'll see in a moment, that can be really brought to our advantage. But the main thing between alcohol and gas is that it has oxygen in it. Alcohol has some oxygen in it when gasoline is just a hydrocarbon or hydrogen and carbon. So what that means is you can get very complete burning with alcohol because it has oxygen there waiting to burn with the carbon and hydrogen, unlike gasoline, where you end up with a lot of unburned stuff, which
Sure.
ends up being called smog or emissions. And that energy that's going out your tailpipe ought to be driving your car instead, and with alcohol it does. Now, because there's a little bit of oxygen in alcohol, we need less of it from the air to burn the fuel, because the way fuel works is it burns with oxygen and liberates the energy. So we have to have a different air-fuel ratio between alcohol and gasoline. And to accommodate that, you can have a little discussion with your computer of your car to adapt to whatever percentage of alcohol is mixed with your gasoline. And your car automatically will do that conversation and make those adjustments up till about 50% alcohol and gas mixture. So if you really think about that for a second, that is a phenomenal attribute of modern cars, any fuel-injected car, that you could put alcohol in with the gas, and your car's computer is smart enough to adjust the air-fuel mixture so that it runs just perfectly.
As long as you tell it that there's a percentage of a mixture that it's not accustomed to, you can reprogram it to utilize the proper air-fuel mixture.
No, it's much simpler than that. The car already has that flexibility, up to 50% alcohol. It's built in as part of the long-term fuel trim, the calculation the engine makes about how lean or how much extra oxygen is allowed to be in there. So you don't have to do anything whatsoever to run your car on 50% alcohol today. Just put it in the tank. Now, you can run 100% alcohol. In fact, the whole country of Brazil does. 95% of all cars sold in Brazil are what we call flex fuel. And they have a little bit smarter computer, has a little bit more data in it, and so it will run anywhere from pure gasoline to pure alcohol without your doing anything. You don't have to think about it. You just fill your tank up with whatever's cheaper.
Right.
So basically, that's the simplicity of alcohol versus gasoline. Is it's a software difference between between gasoline and alcohol. There's no hardware needed in your production line vehicle to to adapt to either fuel. So back when President Obama was Senator Obama, he proposed that all cars in America should be capable of running alcohol and gasoline as flex fuel vehicles. He was defeated in that proposition, but it was a good idea. And basically, if you want to destroy your chances for a re-election campaign, just propose that in Congress, and that's the last they'll ever see of you, typically.
Sure. Well, let me ask you a question about the issue of current engines and utilizing alcohol either in a mixture or 100% pure.
Sure.
And the question that I have that and I'm not a mechanic, and I'm not terribly mechanically inclined, at least with engines. Is there a risk of damaging your engine because of some of the components that are used in engines today? Alcohol would have a tendency to wear through or abuse because they're really made for gasoline, but not necessarily alcohol. I mean, are those risks that are there physical parts that you need to change out that will enable your current fuel injection vehicle to utilize alcohol, other than what you offer in the kit here?
Well, yeah. So the kit is just basically a computer that snaps onto your current computer and adapts the signal coming from the computer. So the question you should really ask is, where did the information come from that makes me think that alcohol will hurt my car? And if you start tracing that back, and you pull on that string and keep pulling on it, you'll find it comes back to the American Petroleum Institute.
Aha. Okay.
And
so we've been fed a lot of misinformation, is what you're telling me.
A whole ton loads of misinformation.
Okay, that's not surprising to me, by the way.
Well, and most of us, I think, have an instinct about that. The American Petroleum Institute is the largest PR machine in the world, and it shapes everything we know about fuel. So what's the truth? The truth is, a long time ago, there were soft components in your gas system that were affected by alcohol, but that's not been true since President Carter, because he mandated the introduction of 10% alcohol into the gas supply back during the Arab oil embargo.
Okay.
So since then, all cars have been tolerant of alcohol, period.
Great.
My assistant Tom and I, we went to the Ford truck plant in Michigan, and we went down the assembly line with a video camera as they assembled the whole truck, and we went focused on the fuel system. And so we started at the gas tank. And
All right.
there's a guy in a fancy forklift pulling these gas tanks that he's dropping into the vehicle. And we say, well, where's the stack of gas tanks for alcohol? Because the oil companies tell us that the plastic of the gas tank will be attacked.
We're going to have to take a quick break. When we come back, I want you to tell us the difference between what they're currently doing in existing manufacturing today to cover that. Just stick with us if you don't mind for this break. We'll be back in just a moment. Folks, you're listening to America's Voice Now. We'll be back in just a moment.
Fox News Radio. I'm Chris Foster. The actress Angelina Jolie has had both breasts removed to reduce her cancer risk.
In a New York Times op-ed piece, she writes that after genetic testing, she found out that she had an 87% chance of getting breast cancer and a 50% chance of ovarian cancer. Jolie says she did this with thoughts of her children. She lost her mother after a 10-year battle with ovarian cancer.
Fox News Radio's Courtney Keeley. The mayor of Osaka, Japan, condones the use of wartime sex slaves.
He said organized prostitution was needed during World War II to maintain discipline in the Japanese military. Nationalist Opposition Party leader Toru Hashimoto later added U.S. troops stationed here in Japan should use such services too.
Fox News Radio's Alistair Wanklin in Tokyo. Playoff hockey. The Bruins and Rangers advance to face off in the Eastern Conference semifinals. Fox News. We report, you decide.
I'd like to thank our sponsor, Wits End Classic Barbershop, who is the sponsor of our telephone lines this morning. They're located on the square in West Plains. It's Wits End Classic Barbershop. Thanks to our friends over at West Plains Pawn and Gun. You can find them on the web at westplainspawn.com. They can be reached at 417-256-3000, and they're located on Route 160, about a mile past Walmart on the right-hand side. 400 guns undercover. Pizza Hut, our friends down there on Porter Wagoner Boulevard. They have an outstanding lunch menu with salad, pizza, and pasta. Excellent opportunity for you to have a great lunch and eat well and something tasty. Our friends over at the Battery Station at 303 Washington Avenue. You can find them on the web at batterystation.com. Telephone 417-257-7799. Our friends over at Ozark Mountain Self-Reliance can be found on the web at ozarkmtn, self-reliance.com. My friend Brian there can be reached at 870-492-4030. They're located a half mile east of Walmart at 3225 Route 62, Mountain Home. My friend Mary over at Chantilly's Artisan Bakery, the best damn bakery in 100 miles. She's right off the square in West Plains at 2 Evans Arcade, and you can reach her at 255-2253. And my friend Bill Stone over at Stone Construction. If you're considering doing remodeling, custom or new construction, or anything light commercial, give Bill a call and have him bid on your project at 293-0116.
There's one man on this earth who really gets it.
It comes down to one sentence and 3 words: secure the border, and they won't do it. Well, look, we got a trigger here and a plan in 6 months, and I don't want to hear the bull crap, the bureaucratic bull crap. Folks, I lived through this in 1986. This is a redo, or some of you might say a redux, but it's a redo. Secure the border.
Mark Levin is on the radio.
Weeknights from 5 till 8, Mark Levin on the Ozarks Best News Talk.
Weather is a service of News Talk 107.1 The Point. Contact Josh or Cody at 255-2548 for more information on making weather sponsorships part of your marketing plans.
For the Point Weather Center, for this morning, a clear sky, sunny through the day with a high of 86. It'll be mainly clear tonight, low 60. Tomorrow, mostly sunny, maybe an afternoon thunderstorm, high 82. Thursday, clouds and a good chance of thunderstorms, high 74. I'm staff meteorologist Jim Rinaldi, and for more information, visit my1071thepoint.com.
If you're looking for great deals on iPads or Kindles, look no further than your neighborhood Radio Shack authorized sales center. They've got great deals on the latest iPads and Kindles. Maybe you need a new GPS or an MP3 player to get your music library ready for those barbecues. Whatever your electronic needs, stop by your local neighborhood Radio Shack authorized dealer in West Plains at 1408 Southern Hills Shopping Center or call 417-256-1819.
All right, we're back with Dr. David Blume. He is, again, the author and purveyor of Alcohol Can Be a Gas. He also has a second website that I would like for you to visit. It's called Blume Distillation, and that's Blume Distillation, Distillation, Advanced Biofuel Production Systems. This website is actually unique in the sense that it approaches something of this from a completely different perspective, and that is to provide a turnkey, scaled alcohol fuel production system so that you can actually be a supplier of alcohol fuel in the community. So, Dr. Blume, thank you for speaking with us this morning, and I apologize I had to jump off for that break there, but you were talking to us about what types of modifications that the car manufacturers make in these specific vehicles as they come off the production line for ethanol or ethanol modified gasoline. Perhaps you can just continue on with that thought.
Well, sure. Tom and I went down the assembly line with our video camera asking the folks working there, well, okay, we're pulling a gas tank off the rack here and it's going into this F-150. This one says it's going to be flex fuel. Where's the special stack of special gas tanks that can tolerate alcohol? I guy says, there's no special tank. It's the F-150 tank. And
guy looked at you like you stepped off a Martian spaceship, right?
Right. We went down the line, to the fuel lines and the fuel pumps and the whole system right up to the front of the car. And every time it was the same thing. Well, there's fuel assemblies in this bin for 150s, 250s, and 350s. Where's the one for ethanol? And they said, those are the three bins. That's it. So anyway, we filmed the whole thing, which, of course, the oil companies hate the fact that we did this because, as you heard, people have the impression from millions of different little sources on the web and little stories planted here and there that, oh my God, your most treasured possession, your automobile, would be attacked by this alcohol fuel. And
that is the impression they give us.
Hey, that'll make your 240-pound all-muscle deer hunter quake in his boots. Like this truck is going to oh my God, get eaten out by the inside by alcohol.
Right.
So the point is it's not true at all. And in fact, alcohol and gasoline are really different when it comes to engine life, because gasoline burns really poorly. It just only part of it turns into energy, and the rest of it is this nasty, sooty stuff.
Sure.
You've changed your oil after 3,000 miles. It's full of black carbon, which comes from gasoline. When you use alcohol, the oil color never changes. It just doesn't have any carbon. It burns completely, and that's good for your engine because carbon is the
sure.
sandpaper that wears out the inside of your car.
Right.
And, of course, if you're getting no carbon, that means you're getting no carbon monoxide in the exhaust. So you don't have any
smog and pollutants.
That's right. And the same with hydrocarbons in your exhaust. The two of the three things they measure for smog. And then nitrous oxides, which are the third thing they measure in smog. Well, alcohol burns 300 degrees cooler than gasoline, so nitrous oxides don't form. It's a high-temperature pollutant. So here, it's really great when I take my little truck in to get it smogged, which we have to do every 2 years in California, and they throw the old probe into the back of the exhaust pipe, and I just sit there. And so you see the guy turn on the machine, and he stands there, and he's looking at it, and, of course, something's wrong. And so we have an electronic device, and it's not operating correctly. What's the first thing you do? What would you do?
If you have a device that's not operating properly?
Yeah, you turn. It doesn't seem to be doing anything. So what would you check?
I'd go and check the device itself and try to identify if it was correctly set up.
Right. So in other words, you'd see if it was plugged in, right?
Right.
Because most of us, we wouldn't know what to do inside an electronic device to figure out how it's set up.
Sure.
But we would check the plug, right?
Is it operating, and is it properly calibrated?
Right. Well, okay, so you check the plug, and the needles still aren't moving. So then the next thing most people would do is the time-honored, very accurate electronic maintenance procedure known
reboot.
As banging on it. Bam, bam.
Right.
So nothing happens, right? I mean, usually about the time he pulls out the screwdriver to pull the thing apart, I tell him, by the way, that's alcohol in the tank, and your needles are not going to move. and they're just freaked out. They haven't seen anything this clean before. So on my Ranger, I had 0 hydrocarbons. I mean, 0, 0, 0. No one in there, just plain zeros.
Right.
And same thing with carbon monoxide and 4 parts per million nitrous oxides. And my truck was allowed by law 400. So that's 99% clean in that department and 100% clean in the others. So alcohol is as clean as you can get. It doesn't wear out your engine from the inside. And in fact, engines have triple life on alcohol over gasoline because of the lack of wear in the engine from carbon.
You know, the idea of being able to, for literally $400 or $500, convert your vehicle to be able to burn both gasoline and alcohol combined or a combination thereof. What is the cost for you to actually produce your own alcohol? I mean, at home, as an example, I know you sell some plans or something to be able to build yourself a distillation unit, which is not, by the way, for the record, consumable by humans, right? So
no, it actually technically is. I mean, it is moonshine. There's no doubt about it. But
right, but from the legal perspective, that as long as it's converted over to ethanol use, then it's not consumable by humans.
The way we do that, the way we make it not consumable by humans, and this is so ironic, is the federal government says it's okay to make alcohol for cars as long as you add 2% gasoline to it to make it poisonous.
Got it.
Well, gasoline, 2% poisonous, it's like, okay, so we're going to take something that's perfectly environmentally clean and doesn't pollute, and we're going to put junk in it that would kill you. It's like, what kind of, who thought of that? You were saying something about bureaucrats? Oh, my God.
Well, actually, their real motivation there is they can't tax you for it if you sell it as a human consumable. So they're really only interested in the taxation aspect of it. They couldn't care less what you do with it or how much of it you drink.
Don't get me started on taxation.
I get it. I mean,
but basically, that's the deal. And so alcohol can be made, which was your question, depending on what you make it from. And everybody write this down. Get your pencil. You can make alcohol for about $1 a gallon. $1 a gallon. Where gasoline in California is selling for $4.20 right now. And down in Peru, where I was recently, down on the Amazon, it sells for $8 a gallon. In other places, it's even more. In the United States, we get kind of a good deal here because of political pressure.
Sure.
But the rest of the country, the rest of the world is not.
How about
like
Brazil? Because you mentioned that Brazil is mostly either straight alcohol or some combination thereof. So what are the costs for fuel in Brazil, as an example?
I don't know the current cost, but I can tell you generally what's true there, which is that the alcohol tends to be half of what the gasoline price is.
Okay.
So that's usually how it works out down there.
And how difficult is it for a family, let's say, to produce a few hundred gallons, perhaps a week, for their own personal usage?
Well, people use a lot less energy than that. Most people need if they have a commuting job somewhere, they use 1,000 gallons of fuel for that. But then the most important use for the alcohol is heating your house in most parts of the East, where heating oil is the usual way of heating a home. Alcohol can replace the heating oil and save you a fortune in the winter.
Right. Now, out here we don't. Everything is natural gas or it's electric for the most part. So
you still can save a lot because you can, if you have central heating, you can splice in a standardized off-the-shelf module that allows you to burn fuel oil in your natural gas heating system. And it's a very simple system. It's just a pump and a flame. So when you splice that into your duct, you're able to then produce heat from alcohol, as an option, and still be able to use your natural gas or whatever. So you have a dual fuel heater then.
Right, as a backup.
Now, you can also heat water with alcohol. There are things that are like the construction heaters you see on jobs that have they're tubular and they're
the torpedoes.
Right. Well, those think of one of those torpedoes firing its flame right down a heat exchanger that heats water. In other words, it's your water heater. And so basically they make these water heaters for fuel oil, and you just turn one screw basically on it, and now it's an alcohol water heater. So, if you live where it's cold, alcohol might be more important to you, for heating than it is for running your car.
Sure. I think for the most part, because of the fact that everything around here is either natural gas or propane is very high in usage once you're outside of city limits. It's a fairly rural area.
Yes.
And, if you don't have natural gas, you either have propane or you have a wood-burning fireplace, which most folks out in the country have, and or you're utilizing electricity. And so I'd like to talk with you after the break here about how you can utilize a alcohol-based to convert, as an example, a generator, so that you would be able to use that. We're going to take a quick break, if you don't mind, and then
I'll get the price of alcohol in Brazil for you by then.
Okay, perfect. And when we return, you can kind of give us an update on what it would take to convert just a standard generator, or perhaps even a military-style diesel generator over. We'll be back in just a second, folks. We're speaking with David Blume.
Last time on the Dennis Miller Show.
Tebow cut yesterday, and I don't live in dream world, but you don't live in dream world if you tell me he didn't win. He won his ass off. Teebs, admire you immensely, my friend, and wish you, I don't know what will happen in the league, but I wish you the best. And you're a fine man. You're somebody that I would point at.
And you can catch Dennis Miller weekday mornings 9 to noon. Dennis Miller on the Ozarks Best News Talk 107.1 The Point.
When our founding fathers secured the constitutional right of the people to keep and bear arms, they also added that right shall not be infringed.
We're commandeering the radio station in the name of...
This is Cooper of Cooper & Company. Tune in weekday mornings from 6 to 8 for your chance to win Glenn Beck's book, Control, exposing the truth about guns. Like I said, if you want a copy, just listen in to Cooper & Company weekday mornings. You can catch Glenn Beck on the Ozarks Best News Talk 107.1 The Point from 2 to 5 every weekday.
Having difficulty with your computer? Do you think it has a mind of its own? Well, don't be alarmed. This happens to everyone at some point in time. Worry no more. Computer Dave and Kyle can help you out with PC Geeks, a weekly show right here on 107.1 The Point. Tune in Thursdays at 1 o'clock to ask computer-related questions and listen to the web topic of the week. That's PC Geeks here on 107.1 The Point.
Kim Commando, aka the Digital Goddess, keeps you plugged in with a daily feature. Kim Commando's Digital Minute. This segment keeps you informed with what's going on in the technology world, along with new tips and tricks to use at home to improve those computer skills. Catch Commando at 7:22 a.m. during Cooper & Company on the Ozarks Best News Talk. If the feature has you craving more, join Kim, the Digital Goddess, Saturdays from noon to 3 on the Ozarks Best News Talk 107.1 The Point.
All right, we're returning. We are speaking this morning with Dr. Blume. He is the creator and purveyor of Alcohol Can Be a Gas. Very knowledgeable gentleman who's kind of giving us an overview on how you can utilize alcohol as a fuel source to replace virtually everything. Electricity, your use of gasoline, your use of natural gas. I'm the most intrigued, I think, because of the immediate value of how fast you can convert an existing engine, whether that be, you've got units that run everything from a 2-cylinder, a 3, a 4, a 5, a 6, an 8, a 6 or 8, with a TBI2 wire, or a 10 or 12-cylinder motor. And the most expensive one you sell is $700. So
yeah, that's for like the 12-cylinder Lincolns,
Yeah.
But basically, this technology has been used all over Brazil. We were just talking about how Brazil is 95% of the cars are made to run on alcohol and gas there.
Right.
The price in Brasilia today, that's the government city, the capital city of Brazil, is $1.39 a gallon.
Wow.
That's the pump price of alcohol today in Brazil. So obviously they're making it for about, 75 cents if they're selling it for $1.40, right?
Right.
So there's no difference in the economics here or there when it comes to making alcohol. They're using sugarcane, so they're actually buying a crop there. And it's interesting to note that the largest union, organized labor in Brazil is the Sugarcane Workers Union. because
Right.
and you think, how does an agricultural union get any power? It's because they control the nation's energy supply.
Sure, sure.
So,
and in this area, we have the ability to grow sweet sorghum, which is really, ideal for that. I mean,
it's very like sugar cane.
Right, sugar cane here would be a problem, but sweet sorghum would not. And this is a very, very heavy agricultural state, and so that would be a perfect opportunity for our local farmers to be able to offer a crop that could actually be turned immediately into a cash crop, not to mention, a fuel crop.
Absolutely. We're talking about. In fact, one of the investors in our distillery company is a farmer in Missouri, and he last year grew 60 acres of sorghum to kind of get ready for growing a lot of it to use in a still that he's going to purchase from us.
Right.
So anyway, last year the drought hit his part of the state really hard, and his sorghum was bright and green right to the end of the season, while all the corn to the horizon was dead.
Yeah.
People drove from 100 miles away to see his field because no one could believe anything was green when everything else was dead. And sorghum uses a fraction of the water of corn. It's a really drought-tolerant crop.
Right.
Now, corn will give you maybe 400 or 500 gallons of alcohol per acre, but sorghum can give you 700 to 1,000 gallons per acre. So in many ways, sorghum is a new important rotation, at least, and maybe a main crop in the Midwest, because you can make plenty of money on the alcohol and then feed the byproduct after you've made the alcohol
to your livestock.
To the livestock, and that's what our farmer Brian Baumgars does with his byproduct. So he doesn't lose anything. He's feeding the byproduct to the cattle, and he's making all the fuel, and that's what happens with corn nowadays. The starch is removed, makes alcohol, but all the protein and fat in the corn is left over, and you feed that to animals. It's called distiller's grains. And it is actually, it will actually fatten up cattle equally to raw corn because the starch in corn is largely indigestible by cattle. So it ends up where? In the manure.
Right.
So rather than sending it there, we should be sending it through our cars.
Well,
now, go ahead.
Your book, Alcohol Can Be a Gas, describes some of the historical aspects of this. You have a how-to book on where folks can be able to, literally get the plans to build their own distillation unit and or the plans to, or not the plans, but the instructions on how to install these units in your vehicle. How is that done? I mean, do they have to take a course? Is this something that, they can obtain a book from you? How do we go about getting some folks involved in this?
Well, we wrote the book first. This book is a complete encyclopedia of how to make your own alcohol plant and how to use a wide variety of waste materials or many different crops to make the fuel. So there's a treasure trove of information in there, and of course detailed information on ways you can convert all kinds of equipment from motorcycles to heaters to cars and everything. And it it tells you how it all works. It doesn't assume you're a dummy, but it assumes you can figure things out. You're a kind of a practical kind of person. And if you can weld, you can build your own alcohol plant that makes from 8 gallons per hour up to 50 gallons per hour with the information in the book. And our goal in doing that was to make it impossible to suppress the information about alcohol fuel once the book was out. So a lot of people can do that, but other people just want to get into the business of making alcohol. And so they're the folks who, were the folks who invested in Blume Distillation for us to design the distilleries we have now. And a lot of people, there's over 200 people on our waiting list for us to start delivering those distilleries to people this winter. So
these are the commercial distillation units, though, that will supply a community, not necessarily just your own needs, right?
Well, just imagine looking at the local dead strip mall, right? They are dying for people to drive in there. So they'll rent you a piece of asphalt. You can drop an above-ground alcohol station there. It's just basically a tank and pumps. and you can make that alcohol some distance away on your farm, or even in a commercial district, and then you bring the alcohol to that tank and pump, and that's kind of like a vending machine. People put in their credit cards and they get out alcohol and fills their vehicle. So that could happen anywhere, and that's all completely legal. So you could be in a business where you only make 250,000 gallons a year. That would probably fit in a 1,500 square foot barn. In other words, a really small barn.
Right.
And that would, if you're selling it, let's say you're selling it for the patriotic price of maybe $3 a gallon, you'd be making $300,000-$400,000, in revenue that year by just cutting the price 25-30% over gasoline. But that's today. Gasoline, by the end of this year, mark my words, will be well over $5.
Sure. And I have no doubt that we have seen the last of the below $3 gasoline pricing in the United States of America. There's absolutely no denying it. I mean, we're done as far as those days go.
Hey, if they're talking, if the oil companies are pushing hard to pipe tar from Canada to Texas to refine it, and that that's not going to be cheap. A heated pipeline all the way to Texas with steam extraction of tar from the ground. I mean,
sure.
Gosh.
Sure.
So if they're willing to do that, they are not willing to sell it for $3 a gallon.
Well, you have some courses on your website and workshops. You have a 15-day permaculture design certification course that I think is intriguing, because if someone were entrepreneurial and wanted to go out and build one of these distillation units in their area and be a provider and a purveyor of that, and or perhaps open up a garage where they could do the installation of these units in people's cars and offer them a package deal for $1,000. You get this in so many gallons or so many tanks full or something along those lines. To me, that sounds like it's a relative no-brainer of a business opportunity where you could actually not only provide the actual conversion unit, but also be able to provide the end result alcohol solution for the daily fueling. So, I mean, I'm intrigued by what you have here. I want to learn more about it. I think I will obtain a copy of your Alcohol Can Be a Gas. That can be bought on your website?
Yes, it can. And when you buy it on the website, we also send you a free DVD, and I also autograph the thing and send it to you.
Outstanding.
Yeah,
Outstanding.
And in addition to that, we should be having our first alcohol fuel courses. That'll be week-long courses with full-size equipment, later this fall. And in California, where we have our what we call Alcohol Fuel University, or sometimes known as Whiskey Hill. So, yes, and there's so you should, if you want to find out where an alcohol station is near you, go to our website, alcoholcanbeagas.com, and you'll be able to find, by putting in your zip code, the closest place where you can buy alcohol at the pump, alcohol made by American farmers, where the money goes to Americans and gets spent in America. So, again, Alcohol Can Be a Gas is the website. You can learn about our books, courses, and, of course, where to get our distilleries when they become available later this year.
Outstanding. Also, the BlumeDistillation.com is BLUME distillation, DISTILLATION. That is a website where it's more geared towards the commercial production side of things, and you talk about application in industries and the technology behind it. So that if you're thinking from an entrepreneurial perspective, listeners, that's the place for you to visit there. So make sure that you go to alcoholcanbeagas.com and also Blume Distillation. I want to thank you very, very much for joining with us today, Doctor. I appreciate it.
I'm glad to be here.
Excellent educational review of this. Thank you very, very much. Have a wonderful day.
You too. Bye.
All right. Bye-bye. Folks, that was David Blume, and I'm very impressed with what he's done here. By the way, for the record, he worked with the Clarksville sewage treatment program in Clarksville, Missouri, and utilize cattails to literally create their own fuel system. And he was a big sponsor of our Go Green Festival here as well last year. So we're looking forward to that again this year. You're listening to America's Voice Now. Thank you for being with us today. Tomorrow morning we'll have Dr. Michael Kaufman on. He'll be speaking to us about Agenda 21 and the upcoming Blue Ways debacle. We'll see you tomorrow morning bright and early here on America's Voice Now. You can find us at americasvoicenow.org.